Welcome back to Just Scylla. I am so happy that we are on episode 3. The topics are getting better. We are going deeper as we go through each one of them. And today we are talking about friendships. The ones that work, the ones that don't. How do you let friends go? How do you figure all that out? How do you navigate the friendships you have with all the women in your lives? So here's the thing. To have this conversation, I need somebody here with me. So Diane Kline, journalist, writer at GAZELLE magazine, is here to join me, and we're going to go through all of that great stuff. Hi, Diane.
Hey, Scylla. This is a really important topic, I think, for all of us, because friendships can be difficult. They're wonderful, but they're difficult, and they're the lifeblood for women. I don't know how you could get through the day without friendships. And so the first thing I always think about is, what does make a good friend? Like, what do you look for in a friend?
I look for authenticity. I want my friends to be real. I want to feel safe when I'm around them. I want them to feel safe around me. And you know, the thing is, friendships are evolving too. As my career is growing, I'm really narrowing down my friends list, and there are reasons for that. Trust is a big deal. Yeah, people change.
And when you say being safe, to me that is, it's almost like a therapist's office where you can say anything to your good friend and you know it's not going anywhere. That to me is what safe means in a friendship.
Totally. Yeah. I want to be able to say anything to particular friends, because friendships are also different. I can say one thing to somebody and another, we can talk about love with one person and growth with a different, they're all different dynamics of friendships, but each one of them should consistently feel like it's authentic, that you're really helping each other be better.
Yeah, I love that. And, I call those common denominator friends. Like maybe you share a hobby, or maybe your kids are in the same class, or maybe, and there's one thing that really bonds you. And whether it grows or not, it doesn't even matter as long as you have that one thing. But that safety factor, I think that's really critical.
It really is. And I think it's a red flag when you stop feeling safe with your friend, when you have to figure out if you should call them today or not, those heebie-jeebies you start getting.
Oh my God, yeah.
That means you need to be evaluating your friendship. Something is not working, and it's time to go back to the table and see what you need to do to make it better. Or let it steam for a while, just let it lay for a while, focus on other things going on in your life, or whether it's time to let it go.
Who's your best friend?
I have several. Well, my best friend, I have several. The biggest one is my daughter's godmother. Her name is Makele. Yeah. My friendship with her is growth. It's the soul. So we talk about deep things, and when things are happening in our lives, we are there to support each other no matter what. Yeah. And then I have friends I talk about my relationship with in greater detail, the more fun type friendships where sometimes I'm not sure if what I tell them stays just with them, but we've known each other for so long. The one thing that's consistent is I know that on my worst day, they'll have my back.
And what do you think about when your friends criticize you? Because I feel like that I want my friends to be honest and real, but there's a certain point where it feels too mean-spirited almost.
Yes.
I don't know. I can think of some friends especially that I actually, it was enough I had to say, I appreciate you're coming from a good place in your heart. You want me to dress better or do this or whatever, but it's enough now. Like, you gotta stop it.
That depends. If it's a friend that is just telling you the truth and that, they're just your check. The person who finally says what you're in denial about, that's one thing. Yeah. But there are friends who don't want to see you do better. They want to tear you down. So they're waiting for the first opportunity to say, her life is not perfect. Yeah. And I'm going to point it out because it makes me feel better. Yeah. And I don't know if they know that they're doing it for that purpose, but they are those friends. And those are friends that you eventually let go. But even that is a process to get to understand what that's about.
I love it. I want to talk about a friendship. This to me is the most astounding friendship I've ever had. I had a roommate out of college, and we were very good friends in college, and she had a good friend. And this other friend would come and visit us at our house and stuff, and I didn't particularly care for her at all. We weren't angry with each other, but just it didn't click at all. And I didn't see her for about 20 years. And then my friend had an event, and she was there, and I saw her, and we just started talking, and she talked about how her son was an addict and what she was dealing with, and that she had been in therapy. And I started talking about being divorced twice, and she started talking about being divorced. And we immediately became such close friends. We could not almost stand each other 20 years ago. And now I would say she's one of my closest friends.
But 20 years ago, you were different people.
Exactly.
20 years ago, you hadn't gone through the life experiences. You hadn't weeded out the things that you didn't want in your life. And then you get to recognize which friendships you should have been worrying about at that time. But it just wasn't the time.
Exactly.
True friendship sometimes happens in the middle of your life. And so now it's figuring out whether those friendships you're making in the middle of your life are the good ones.
Yeah. Well, what's most interesting about this one is that we're closer than we are with the other friend.
You know, that's really interesting. And, you know, the thing is, just because they are close doesn't mean you have to be close.
Yep.
And then when you become close to a friend, to a friend's friend, that's a whole other complication.
Oh my God.
There's territorial, there's jealousy, there's, you know, the other friend trying to figure it all out. Sometimes it's happening to you. You don't know how to deal with it.
Well, and you talk a lot about growth. And so, and friendships that help you grow. I think one thing that's really interesting about friendships is how they're very different at different stages in your life. The friend you need when you're 20 years old is very different from when you have children, which is very different from when your kids are going off to college, when your career is taking off. Very, very different needs that you have in friends.
And that is so true. The friendships that I want in my life in my 40s are very different from my 20s. But you know, you learn. You know, I've mentioned before that I'm divorced. My friends were too much in my relationship. But guess what? I'm the one who put them there, because every time I had a problem, I would call my friends. By my 40s, I know now what to keep close to the sleeve and when to seek help.
And so, from whom? And from which friends?
And from which friend? Because again, you learn the hard way that not everybody wants things to be going well for you.
And part of friendships as you change and the stages change is that, like, for example, I don't have children. So my friends, when they started to have children in their 20s or early 30s and they wanted to talk about their kids all the time, I always said, I want the headline news on your children. You know, I want to know, like, you know, what they're doing real quickly. If there's a big problem, I want to listen. But I don't want to hear how, you know, what's going on in their diapers. You know, it's just.
I can relate to that because I had my children earlier than most of my friends, and several of my closest friends have smaller kids, and so even going out is complicated. You find that you're not inviting them to stuff because you assume that they're not available, or you just don't want you know, you want to stay out late, and you know at some point they have to go home, so you start pushing that friendship to the side for a while, which is not the best way to handle it. But yes, it's having similar things going on in life definitely makes friendships easier.
I heard the funniest thing with a comedian. He was talking about now that he's in his 60s, his friendship needs have changed. He wants a really good doctor to be a friend of his. He wants, you know, and there's a certain point where you want a lawyer to be a good friend, so that you could, a therapist to be a good friend, so you can just pick up the phone and say, I have a problem, can you talk to me about it? But everything does change as you get older. And I think also if you're successful like you are, it's really helpful to have some friends who are successful, because the kinds of things you're grappling with and you want to talk about are different than if somebody's not working or they're staying at home or whatever. But I think breaking up with a friend is I think it's harder to break up with a girlfriend than it is with your romantic partner in certain ways, because with your romantic partner, you've probably been talking about what's wrong and working on it, and it's, you know, and then you just have to go your separate ways. But with girlfriends, sometimes it's so painful, and especially when you've been friends for years and years and years.
Because you have all that history.
Oh my gosh, yes. You
have so much history together. But you know what? Here's the important thing that I learned, because I've had to let some really long friendships go. There are friends who are friends that when you look back, they were always there for you when things weren't going well in your life. They don't know how to deal with you when things are going well in your life. And so it transitions. And so you realize over the course of time that your friendship was based on them feeling better, based on the fact that things were not going well in your life. those are not empowering friends. They are fixer friends.
Oh, I love that phrase. They're fixer friends. And that's why you love that friendship, because when you were down and out, whether it was your work or your relationship or whatever, they were there for you. They were giving you Ben and Jerry's ice cream. You know,
Totally.
they were totally there for you. And then suddenly it's like, where are you? Why aren't you happy for me now that this successful thing happened? Yeah.
And those are the ones who start making remarks because
Yeah.
they're still looking for those faults. And they're not understanding that you're also evolving and growing.
So if you've broken up with friends, and I have too, and
Yes.
it's very painful, have you actually had the talk with
I
them?
always have the talk.
Oh, you are so much stronger
Now,
than I am.
whether
Oh my
they
gosh.
get it or not, whether they recognize that it's the talk is a whole different thing. But I let it stew. I think about it. But every single person that I'm not friends with knows why we're not friends. And maybe they thought we were just having an argument.
Yeah.
But for me, it was clearly stating why that friendship was no longer good for me.
Yeah. And then would you actually say at the end of the talk, I don't think we should be friends anymore?
No,
or-
I don't think that's necessary.
Okay.
I think, the things that I say is I just don't feel that I can trust you anymore.
Yeah. Because I had someone break up with me and literally sit down like a romantic breakup and just
Really?
Oh yeah. And I sat there dumbfounded because by the way, I had no idea she was so unhappy with our friendship.
That's a good point.
Yeah. So when I thought, and I said, well, can't we work on this? I did. I'm like, really? Are you serious? And she's like, no, I'm done. And I said, well, have a good life. We were at Schnucks in the coffee, where you get coffee and drinks and DePere. And I just said, well, I guess have a good life. Bye-bye. I walked out. I didn't even know what to do.
I know that was really hard, but that is really funny.
It really was. Oh my God.
I think friends have broken up with me. And for me, the thing is, sometimes I'm clueless.
Yeah. So you didn't even know.
No, and they're probably friends who've broken up with me now. I don't see them.
Even as we speak, they're
I'm
breaking up
telling
with
you,
Yeah.
but you don't notice it. I don't know if that makes me a good friend or not. I think for me, my female friendships are not, they're important, but they're not my end all be all.
Yeah.
I love my job. I love my kids. I love my family. I think the problem starts when somebody becomes the focus, like the friendship becomes the focus. We don't have to talk every day. If you can't handle me not talking to you every day, I don't know what to tell you. I'm not going to call you every day.
Well, and there's another thing with this, which is texting has changed friendships completely
Yes.
because now friends can text 10, 15, 20 times a day and just like, okay, it's enough. I get it. I don't need to know every single second of your life. And please just back. And it's very, very hard to say back off. And then I have taken times where I'm like, I'm going to take 3 steps away from this friendship and hope it can just kind of settle in a little in a different place.
Yes.
And I have found that doesn't really work because they will call, are you upset with me? No, I'm
Yes.
just really busy. I mean, that is the ultimate spin.
But you know what I found? I found that usually when a friend is obsessive about your friendship, something's not going well in their life.
Oh, that's a really good
because
point. Yeah.
your friendship with that person shouldn't be the focus of their entire life.
Yeah.
So if they want to talk all the time, and there's only so much stuff you can talk with girlfriends before it turns to gossip. And I don't like gossip. And that's why I limit how long we're going to talk. You've talked, you've figured out things are not going well. By the 3rd conversation, you're talking about someone or something
really good
that's
point.
not productive. And I don't like that.
One of the worst things with friendships to me is when you have to break up with a friend, which is worse than breaking up with a romantic partner. It's worse than breaking up with your hairstylist.
Yes.
Yeah. Have you ever had that experience of breaking up with somebody?
Yes, I've broken up with at least 3 friends. But the one that was impactful for me was a friend I'd had for 20 years.
20 years.
Yes.
What did she do that would make you walk away after 20 years?
I believe she wasn't happy for the good things that were happening in my life, and she wanted the good things that were happening in my life for her.
Was there a particular
Particularly-
instance?
Oh, yeah. It started with, at first I was trying to please. So I wanted her to feel comfortable. I wanted her to feel like she's a part of this growth that's happening. And so for her birthday, took her on a trip to Vegas.
Oh, my God.
Paid for everything. We had a great time. I was trying too hard to say, even though things are moving forward for me, it's fine. It doesn't change our friendship. What broke up our friendship was when I realized that she was doing funny stuff to get the attention of my boyfriend.
Like what?
All I'll tell you is I called her and we had a long talk about it. And I told her I didn't trust her. And she admitted that she was inappropriate. And she apologized. And she's tried to redeem herself, actually. I just can't forgive her. It was a line that she crossed. Now, in the back of your mind, you may have seen behaviors with other people, and you may have known she had those characteristics. I just didn't know or even fathom that she would do that to me. All because of just wanting things. Envy. So I'm finding it really hard to move on from that particular situation. And unfortunately, we have friends in common, and all of us have known each other for a long time. Nobody knows what they're supposed to do either way. All I know is what I saw, and I talked to her about it, and she apologized because she knows what she was doing for a period of time. And
so
that was that.
With these other friends you have, do they invite both of you to a party or both of you to an event, or have they chosen to just invite one and not the other? How do you navigate that, and how do they navigate it?
I think for me, I'm like, my feelings about it, I'm like, you can continue your friendship with her. Just know that me and her will not be friends because I don't trust her in my home.
Wow.
So that will not change.
That's very big. One of the things for me when I realize there's something wrong with a friendship is when, say I'm going through a bad time, and then they start telling me all the wonderful things happening in their life at that moment, rather than just kind of holding back a little bit to let me catch up somehow. Mm-hmm. And then I see this as a pattern. I think that's the deal, that there's patterns that you see, like, wow, why are they telling me all this? I don't know. I can't quite describe it, but I want somebody to understand and be sensitive to what I'm going through. So because I will be sensitive to what you're going through. I'm happy when great things are happening to you, but don't throw it in my face when I'm going through something very difficult.
But here's the question, because that might happen to me. Maybe I do that as well.
Yeah.
Did you communicate what's going on in your life to the extent that they know that this is a huge deal that's impacting your daily life? Because if we are talking, I'm just telling you what's happening. Or maybe you're seeing it on Facebook all the time.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's not that the other person is saying stuff. It's that you're seeing them really, really happy.
Yeah.
And they're a good friend of yours and they're not there for you and you're going through a bad time. Have you communicated with your friend so that they understand that they need to pay attention to your relationship a little bit?
That's a really great question, and it's very hard. The one particular person I'm thinking about, I was going through a divorce. I was very financially strapped. It was very hard, and she would say, "Oh, look at this Cartier watch my husband just gave me," or "Yeah, we just bought a Mercedes," or "We," and this was constant. Hard. And I'm like, "Okay, I'm happy for you. I get it, but have a little understanding here that I'm in a very different place than you are about something like that." Mm-hmm. But I probably did not communicate specifically and say, this is hard for me. But
I think the fair question is, should your friend be miserable just because you're miserable?
No, absolutely not. But there's a sensitivity factor. Yeah. Am I throwing things in your face, or how am I handling it? I see your point really well, but I always try to be so sensitive to what my friends are going through. Like if they're having trouble conceiving a baby.
Yeah.
I don't start talking about all kinds of baby things all the time so that they're aware of what they're missing. And does that make sense?
It makes total sense. But I think that the real friendships, because I've had conversations with my friends who said, "You weren't there for me when this was happening." And I'll say, "You didn't tell me. Yeah. I thought you were fine. You didn't say anything. I'm not a psychic." You have to be able to share your needs. I have a friend of mine, she's one of my best friends as well, who I've sat on their couch and just fell into it after I had a major breakup and just said, I'm depressed. And they were looking at me like, oh my God.
Yeah.
You know, it was, what should we do with this? But you know what? We laugh about it now.
Yeah.
We literally sit down and laugh.
I think your point is so well taken, and I certainly need to do better at this, which is just really communicating. Right now I'm struggling, or right now this is what's happening to me, and so here's what I really need from you right now. And just explain what it is. So I guess on both sides, I guess if you heard your friend's story, what happened with their breakup, and your story, the truth is somewhere in between.
The truth of the matter is, even with my friend who I had a bad breakup with, I didn't know what was going on in her life, because maybe she didn't want to tell me because my life looked so perfect. There's always an underlying issue.
Yeah.
So we never addressed the underlying issue. I just cut off a friendship. Sometimes you just have to let things go, let them be in the past. And in this segment we're about to do next week, we're going to talk about how we create new friendships. In the space that you're in today, moving forward, wanting things that are real, spiritually feeling centered, we'll talk about whether the new friends are friends or foes.